Okay, so I'm going to keep going with the same console application, and let's start getting into some of the decision making with if-else statements. This is a pretty easy concept, I think, because this is how our brains work naturally. We're like constantly in decision mode. So this is a good, like, natural fit for us. But of course, syntax is an issue, so you have to be careful. Let's pretend we have a nightclub scenario, and there's a band playing, and you have to be 18 years old to get into the club, but you have to be 21 years old to order drinks in the club. All right. So anybody 21 and over is going to come in, be allowed inside the club and get a green wristband. Okay. Think of it as giving the bartender a green light to serve that person. Anybody under 21 will get a red wristband. Now, I should mention that nobody under 18 is allowed to come in anyway. So if a 17-year-old tries to come in, they're just going to be turned away at the door. But anyone 18 through 20, they would be allowed in, but they're going to get that red wristband. Okay. So before we get into the code, I want to run through the C# relational operators. Some of these are going to be familiar to you, and obviously less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and this one is going to be difficult to get used to. This is not the same as the single equal sign. There's an important distinction here. The single equal sign in C# means assignment. Take this value on the right and assign it to the variable on the left. Okay, so we do use the single equal sign in C#, but it's not to express equality like the single equal sign you've been using your whole life. So equal to, if this is equal to that, you use the double equal sign. That's very difficult to get used to because, again, you've been using the single equal sign your whole life. So not equal to, and we'll come across that from time to time. But this is the one to really be careful about, that double equal sign. We're not using it in this example, though, but it'll come up for us. So anyway, here we have, and then the logical operators, logical and, you'll use that a lot. That's the 2 ampersands. And then logical or, you'll use that too, not quite as often as the and, but this is 2 pipe characters. The pipe shares the backslash on the keyboard, so right above the enter key. So if you have to make a pipe, that's where you would find that one. Okay, so anyway, we have a string for the message that we'll give to the patron. And I've initialized my string to a null string, a nothing string. And then we have a new variable, an integer type, for the patron age, and I'll put a 20 into it. Okay, so diving right into our if structure here, we really have 3 avenues of execution, right? We have either you're not coming in at all, you're coming in and you're getting a red wristband, or you're coming in and you're getting a green wristband. It's so 3 possibilities depending on the patron's age. So we'll just take it from the top and start with the youngest people, and then we'll just move up the chain, so to speak. So we have if the patron age is less than 18, we're going to say, sorry, you can't come in, basically. All right? Or else if, look at the syntax here, or else if, now these are like the middle people, the 18 to 20-year-olds. We are going to let them in, but they're going to get a red wristband. Now, here's the thing. When you want to isolate a range, 18 to 20, okay, you're going to have to use a compound condition, So in this case, if somebody's in that 18 to 20 range, that person is either, that person is greater than or equal to 18 years old, and they are also less than 21 years old, okay? Both of those things have got to be true in order for somebody to be in this range, okay? And then with the else clause, look, if we've made it this far, we're dealing with a 21 or over person. It's, it's not a big deal if you were to do something like this. Is greater than or equal to 21. Okay, that would work just fine too. But It's a little redundant because, as I said, if we've made it this far, we're dealing with that age of a person, okay? Basically, when this executes, it's looking for a true, okay? It's going to start at the top and say, is this true or false? All right, now the patron is 20 years old in my scenario, so that's false. 20 is not less than 18. So then it moves on to the next condition, and it's looking for a true. Now, in this case, it's going to get a true because both of these are going to be true. Is 20 greater than or equal to 18? Yes, it is. Is 20 less than 21? Yes, it is. So I have both of those things true. And so this is what's going to execute, the red wristband. Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and run this. Okay, there it is. This is from the program, the demo before, but there we go, the red wristband as we were expecting for the 20-year-old. Why don't we change this to somebody older? And we'll see. Okay, and they have the green wristband, so it is working. Okay, so just a little more terminology. This is called a relational expression. A relational expression evaluates to true or false. If it's true, then this part of the structure is going to execute. Okay, I call this a sandwich. It's not properly called a sandwich, but I like that analogy. This is like a triple-decker sandwich to reflect the 3 avenues of execution. Okay, so if this is a true, then this layer of the sandwich is going to execute. Okay. If it's a false, it's not going to execute. It'll move on to the next layer and see if it can get a true out of that. You know, one more thing. Typically, you will have a curly brace sandwich surrounding your code. You can get away with it if there's just one line of execution in the one line of code in the layer. Okay, as soon as you have more than one line of code, you know, something else here, forget it. You've got to have the curly braces. But if it's just going to be one line of code, then you don't really need the curly braces. Now, my advice to you is just always throw them down. It's not a big deal, especially when you're first learning. It's okay if your code is a little, you know, redundant in places. These curly braces are redundant because I only have one line to execute. But, you know, my advice to beginning students is it's not a big deal if you add them and you didn't need them, but it would be a very big deal if you really did need them and you did not put them there. So just kind of always putting them there, you're kind of always covering yourself, okay? But it would not be necessary in this scenario where we just have the one line to execute. Okay.